Carnegie Mellon University alumna, and she started at the age of 20, and she has done multiple ventures. Now she is the CTO of a leading company as well. And to talk about her path through the years, right? She has actually designed a SaaS platform. She has been doing her entrepreneurial journey. Now she's part of a SaaS platform, and she's a chief product officer currently of Think Future Technologies. I think she has done many things. And if you think that's all what she has done, she's actually an advocate of tech community, and she is serving as the Delhi chapter lead volunteer for SaaS Bhumi. So please welcome Shreya, and I'll let her take over.
Thank you, Jayashree, for the kind introduction. Right. So hi, everyone. Welcome to this session. I know that this is one of the last sessions you're in for, that to day 2. So super tired and exhausted. So we'll keep it light and fun and a bit interactive as well. So let's get started. Okay. So today we're going to talk about metrics that drive product success. Now, before I dive into why metrics are important and why it is important to talk about this on this platform at Anita B, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself. So apart from what you see in the screen, I think it's important to know a little bit more in depth about what motivates me. So I am a builder at heart. I love building products specifically for problems that people are facing, and create solutions that they're not only using, but are able to actually enjoy, right? So that has been the core of whatever I've done in my life, and that's what keeps me going. So let's talk about why metrics are important. You know, the other day I was walking into a Forever New store. How many people here like their dresses? Can we do a show of hands? Okay, that's a lot of people. So as usual, the dress was fitting tightly. And I was like, you know, I really like this one for the New Year's Eve, and I would like to fit into that one by the end of it. So it's only 1.5 months, actually lesser. And so how would I go about it? So there are different metrics I can look at, right? I could maybe lose a few pounds or lose a few inches. Both are metrics that could get me closer to the goal. But which one is more accurate or appropriate for this specific use case? Inches, right? So, you know, the idea here is just like body transformation, product building is also a long process. And so you need some guardrails to make sure that, you know, you are there on the right path and you're going in the right direction. And you need to keep tracking your progress. And that's why metrics are important. So now let's go into product building. So today we are going to use a framework which is called Objective Key Results. Is anybody in the room aware of Objective Key Results? Okay, great. A few people, okay. So apart from Objective Key Results, there are multiple frameworks which have come through the years. There's management by objectives. They're setting SMART goals, key performance indicators. Then you have a goal question metric, and then you have objective key results, right? So how do you choose which framework to go for? It completely depends on the context. Some of these frameworks apply to more of an organization-wide application, and the others require the goals to be very ambitious, right? So for a specific use case that we're going to take today into account, we're going to use objective key results for the same reason that it is applicable to a wider user platform, because products are meant to be used by masses, and then the goals are usually ambitious. So objective key results are there for this reason. So if you look at OKRs, we need to first define the objective. Where is it that we want to go, right? Where do we see ourselves? Second, what are the key results that can help ensure that we are on our objective? How will we measure them along the way and track progress? So that is all that ties OKRs together into making sure you're tearing down your problem statement to the right level and taking it from there. So today we are focusing on the problem statement. that employees spend more than a day in a week searching for solutions to problems related to work-related tasks, right? Just take a moment to think of a problem statement that's close to your heart that you would like to solve for. And you can sort of relate and parallel that to each of the metrics that I'm going to talk about in the coming few slides. So here is a concept of land of productivity that we have sort of just conceptualized to tear down the problem statement into who is actually getting impacted by this problem. So we found out through our research that engineering departments in companies were getting impacted by this specific problem statement where employees are spending more than a day in a week searching for solutions to issues. And why are they getting stuck? It is because the technology churn that is happening in the world right now is super huge. Every 6 months, a new programming language was coming, but now with AI and more future tech, the technology is taking new turn even more, right? So onboarding into these new technologies is becoming even more difficult, and people get stuck often. They have issues, they have problems, they don't have answers to. And then we see what kind of impact would this problem statement have. So companies are not able to leverage this 20% of the work week that is sort of getting wasted while employees are not able to sort of get solutions to the problems. And so now we define the OKRs for this problem statement, right? So where do we want to go? So our problem statement was that employees are spending more than a day in a week searching for solutions. So how about we give them instantaneous solution? That should be our objective, right? And then, what could be the key result? The key result, since it's about time, should be relating to reduction in the time spent searching for those solutions. So we've defined a metric saying, okay, if we see an 80% reduction in that time, we have achieved our objective. So the idea is, the objective is ambitious, the key results are aligned, all of the data is transparent, right? And while we achieve this 80% reduction in time, there would be a long journey. It won't happen instantaneously. So we need to keep in mind certain sub-key results. For example, we said that an improvement in onboarding into a new technology, or performance review by the managers, or the attrition rate, all of these are tracking our progress and making sure we are on the right path. So now that we have defined the problem statement, tear down the problem statement, define the OKRs, now is the time we conceptualize the product. And as everybody knows, product journey is never just a step up, it's convoluted. You go down, you find a way around, and then you come back up again, right? So a little reminder to that. Okay, yeah, all right. So the core features of the product concept that we have are, how about we instantly connect employees to experts, whether they're internally within the organization or outside the organization whenever they're stuck at a problem, right? What if this solution is available on all of the devices that people are on, whether it's laptops, desktops, mobile phones? What if the people don't have to go to a website to access this product? What if we find them right where they are, on their Slack channels, on their MS Teams, Google Chats, right? So we set the concept is called Wizards at Work, so you're not stuck anymore, right? So this is a concept that we came up with. Definitely did a lot of research and A/B testing, and I can talk a little more about it offline if you guys have any questions. So post the product conceptualization, there are different modules that we should check technical feasibility for. And this is in line of creating the MVP, which is the minimal viable product, right? So if you see here, I've created a 4x4 matrix, okay? So the y-axis is the value proposition that each of these modules will provide to the objective. Objective was to provide instantaneous solutions to employees, right? And the x-axis is the ease in deployment of the solution. So if you look at the top corner, top right corner, it is a module called chatbot, which is a conversational chatbot that can instantly connect you with an expert. For example, you're stuck in a Python code and there's an error. So you just put in the chatbot, hey, I'm getting error in my Python code, and you get instantaneously connected to an expert. So that solution is easy to develop and has a high value proposition as far as the objective is concerned. So we go ahead and develop that. It's a no-brainer. When we go to the left-hand side, we see there's a module of skill mapping for the experts, which is machine learning based. So we automatically analyze the expertise of the experts, and we match and make those connections in metaverse. Now, even though this module will have a higher value proposition to the objective, it will be a little complicated to deploy at this point in time. And so we put our R&D efforts into it, but we don't go ahead and develop it as far as our MVP is concerned. So similarly, if you go to the bottom left quadrant, what if you're able to recognize when the user is stuck? But it will require a lot of user monitoring. It's difficult to deploy, probably doesn't have a high value proposition for our objective, and so we just move on. We don't do this module at all. And on the bottom right, we have different compatibilities that we want to have in the product, different integrations. They're easy to develop, probably don't have a very high value proposition, but we could prioritize and see what we want to do first, what we want to do next, right? So based on this chart, we will decide what we want to have in a minimal viable product, right? Now, how do you know that the minimal viable product that you have is going to, make you achieve your objective, which is reduction in the time that you spend searching for solutions by 80%. So you need to have some metrics to see if your MVP will have the kind of impact you're looking for. And for that, we said, okay, what if people are able to do more work in the same duration? How can we define more work? Probably there are more number of stories being retired in the sprint. They're able to do more tickets, right? So those are some of the metrics that we used to sort of see if our MVP is on track of the objectives that we want to achieve. And so you develop that, you have an MVP ready, and you get it in the hands of the users. So I always say this, when you're building a product, just make something quick and dirty, do your homework, and give it in the hands of the users. Otherwise, it's all in your head. And as Henry Ford said, if you ask people for what they want, they would say faster horses and not cars, right? So just give it in the hand of the users, analyze the behavior, see how they're using it, and you will see a huge difference between what you develop first and what you're able to come out later. So in terms of once you have your MVP out, what are the kind of metrics you can look at? Usability metrics become super important. How many daily active users are there on your product, right? What is the retention rate? What is the session duration? Can you do some user behavior analysis? For example, there are tools like Hotjar, Mixpanel. There are heat maps. You can see how are people using the product. Do I need to tweak something? And that becomes a feedback loop for the product itself, right? So what happens now is you created an MVP. You have certain usability metrics that goes into the product creation and development phase. And then again, you give it in the hands of the users, and they give you feedback, right, in terms of the usability measures. And it goes into your product roadmap and again getting executed. Till the time you have a product that is in line with your objective of achieving the reduction in time to search for solutions by 80%, right? And that's when you launch. So once you launch, these are the metrics that become important. The first one is the vanity metrics, the decision metrics, and coincident metrics. Now, vanity metrics are very surface level, like the number of downloads, number of installs. Like for us, if people are signing up to a newsletter, it was a good metric, okay? The second one, which is the decision metric, they actually have a business impact. For example, somebody came and actually signed up for your product. They paid, there was a conversion. So that becomes a coincident, the decision metric. And then comes a coincident metric, which is more long-term. What is a net promoter score? You know, are there recurring subscriptions to your product? And that is more long-term. I would say vanity and decision for me specifically are always milestone metrics. When you start achieving them, you know that you are in line of getting those good coincident metrics, right? So it is always good to sort of keep a check on what is important for your specific product. So in conclusion, it is important to have an intent to use for your product by the user. And that is determined by how good of a groundwork you've done on your problem statement. Have you teared down your problem statement to the last level? Have you done the product conceptualization research right? So you know that there is an intent to use, right? How can you activate that intent to use is by how you create the product, right? How are your usability measures? Are they doing very well? Then you will be able to activate that intent to use that was there for your product statement itself. And then how do you keep engaging with them over a period of time? I'm sure once you activate intent to use, it's not always going to stay. So you need to keep fueling that, investing in that, and making sure your product is evolving faster than the world around you. And that's how you keep the users engaged. So if I were to summarize this entire process, and it is from a lot of experience in terms of different products that I've put it into one single session, where from the problem statement, you tear down the problem statement to define the OKRs. Then from the OKRs, you create a product concept. You see the technical feasibility of certain modules that are linked to your product concept. Then you create your MVP, check the usability measures, get it back as a feedback loop into your product creation, and then you launch, right? So it's a complete cycle, and if done right, it can result in a very good return. And I feel metrics are always very important. Again, one of the things that has always stuck with me, while I was deciding the title for this session, I was like, what would be the right title? But one of the things that I always believed in, that Peter Drucker said, that what you can't measure, you cannot manage, right? And while we are on these long-term goals, whether it's body transformation or it is product creation, we need to do a lot of management. And so we need to measure and we need to have these metrics. So by the way, this entire exercise was not just for example. We actually have a product. It's called Self-Best. It's a productivity solution we actually built. And one of its modules, which was Expert Connect, was a result of this activity. So here, now we have 3 modules. So we have done this exercise over and over, and after getting a lot of feedback, we have a work done, which is a time management module. Then we have Expert Connect, which instantly connects you to experts. And third, we have Simplify Path, which is an NLP-based chatbot with which you can take actions on different applications in your organization. For example, if there is an HRMS, you can just write in the chatbot, I want to apply for a leave, and it will execute it in the platform. So more of an action-oriented GPT. So the idea is to save all of that time during the day that a person spends on activities that are not relating to the primary area of work. And so Self-Best is one, and currently I'm working on Y Health, which is a metabolic health platform that helps people get the health vitals in 60 seconds just with a face scan, which is your HbA1c, your BP, stress levels, and all of that. And so what I'm trying to say is that all of these products are a result of a process like this, and it is replicable. And all right. So if you have any questions, you can ask me now. Also, you can connect with me here on this QR. I also have a podcast called Build with Shreya, which I started recently because I feel that there's so many real-world problems like in healthcare and in environment. And, everybody thinks, okay, what can we do about it? Nobody knows how to get started. And so I've created these different verticals, and I'll be getting different experts to sort of see what we can actually do about it, and what is the toolkit for somebody to actually get started, right? So yeah, happy to take any questions at this point.
Hi.
Hi.
So my question is, most of the product organization, my observation is that the product metrics is usually an afterthought, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is through your experience as a chief product officer, what is your suggestion that the product teams should think of metrics while they create the products, like as a part of the PRD? So what would be your suggestions that we, instill this behavior in all product teams or across?
I think it comes down to being very organized, right? So while we have product roadmaps in our organization, we should also have metrics assigned to those roadmaps. A lot of organizations have that, but many do not. And that is where the difference comes in terms of the delivery times and in terms of the success the product sees in the market. In fact, even if you look at Google, a lot of their products are not working right now, right? So product metrics are something that as an individual we need to start thinking about. I mean, as I said, it just goes back to even like if you want to transform your body, right? So metrics are super important. I do not think that often when I have ignored metrics in my life, any kind of metrics, I have always exceeded the amount of time I take to achieve my goals. And I think that's where we lose out. And time is all we have. We're all on a time bomb at this point with so many technologies in our purview. So yeah, I think, yeah.
Hi, Shreya. Just following Anustati's question, how do you measure success in terms of post-product release or when you reach out to customers? How is it that, what are the KPIs we look at for measuring success after a product is released and goes to the market in terms of tech?
Yeah, I think that's, in terms of tech, I think automation testing becomes really important. So how many test cases are being run successfully on the product? That I'm talking about in terms of the product as a tech product success. So we have tools like Browser Stack, right? And even we have an internal tool called Cloudify Tests. So automation testing is super important, and the metrics that are there in terms of the number of test cases run become super important when it comes to tech specifically, if that was your question. Okay. So I think, as I mentioned, the launch metrics, right? So it depends product to product. Again, there would be certain vanity metrics that are important for you. Like for us, it was the newsletter, the number of people who subscribe to a newsletter, or the number of downloads they made on the application. And then the decision metrics could be, how many people actually bought the subscription. That becomes important. And then the coincident metrics could be, what is the customer satisfaction level? Are there recurring subscriptions, annual subscriptions, long-term subscriptions that are happening? So again, depends product to product. Like ours was a SaaS product, and that's how it was. But it could be different for, let's say, a license-based product or, a physical product. Okay. Any more questions? Yeah? Does anybody have a problem statement that they want to bring up, that they want to sort of create something for? Yeah. Okay, I cannot hear.
What are the challenges that you have in terms of collecting the metric? Because if it is a MEP or something in the ideation phase, you don't have the real product in line, and then you don't have the metrics for that to calculate the success or the failure of it. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, like, could you just enlighten us on the challenges and how do you overcome that?
So when you are in the ideation phase or you're in MVP phase, again, as I said, you need to have measures that you can measure, right? For example, number of stories retired was one of the things that we were measuring. That okay, if the number of stories retired increase, it means more work is getting done. We're correlating it with more work is getting done, and hence, while this person is using a product, there is a difference between before the number of stories and after number of stories. So you have to sort of find those metrics that you can still sort of, measure, and they wouldn't be exactly correlating to the bigger key result, right? But they would be sub-key results that you can say, okay, I am on the right track. Again, they just act as a guardrail that, okay, there is some difference I see, I am on the right path, I don't need to significantly pivot something. Now, for example, if the number of stories didn't actually increase, then I'm really super wrong with my product concept in certain level, yeah. Anybody else? Oh, okay. Yeah, you have a follow-up? Sure.
That you recommend for tracking this? Anything
Yeah,
that you
Hotjar
use?
is good. Mixpanel is also good. Google Analytics is free, but the problem is there is certain limit into the number of sessions you can track.
Hi, I'm Priyanka. Sometimes you think the data that you have is indicating something, but it might be the opposite, or like we might misinterpret the data.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
Once you figure it out, how do you realign with your OKRs is my question.
So your question is, let me rephrase it, that what if you interpret the data incorrectly and you come to know later, what do you do about it?
Or someone else has been doing it and you figure it out, you know, that they have been doing it wrong. Like
So the good thing is, Neha?
Priyanka.
Neha. Yeah.
Priyanka. Sorry. Priyanka.
Priyanka.
Yeah.
Okay. So good thing is, Priyanka, there's so many tools nowadays which can give you automatic interpretation and analysis of data that there is a very little chance to go wrong. So again, if you're depending on one single person to do that, it is possible. I think what you're talking about is a human error, right? So nowadays there's so many tools that can automatically analyze data, and machine doesn't go wrong that often, especially if it is rule-based. AI can go wrong, but a rule-based system will never go wrong.
So a comprehensive rule-based system is the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
A comprehensive rule-based system is the way to go. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You have like dashboards, created in Tableau, Power BI.
So in my experience, sometimes the queries that were there in Tableau also were wrong, and I went ahead and fixed them. That was done by the previous product manager. So I was thinking, sometimes the company can be thinking they're doing really good, but in actuality, they were not.
No, that's correct. I think so. That comes down to then transparency. That whatever somebody has been doing, is it being under scrutiny, or is it being checked well before it is passed on to somebody else? So I think that's more of a process issue, I would say, but definitely can be solved with the available tech in the industry.
Yeah. Especially the older processes that were set there. They'd never go back and change.
Oh yes, totally, I understand. Yeah.
Thank you.
Most welcome. Yeah.
One last question for the day.
I don't have a question, but I just have a thought, and I want to know your feedback. See, there's always data, there's always numbers. We can do a lot more with the numbers that we have. But then the impact that the metric makes to the value of your company is what is important. Because end of the day, numbers tell you different stories, different perspectives, and different angles. But the impact that the KPI or the metric is going to make to the value and the vision of the company is what we should be looking at. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good thought, because at the end of the day, if they don't tie back to your key result, we know something is off. I mean, to your point, if it's not tying back to the OKR or the key result, something is wrong with the process. It's just that nobody is doing that. Nobody is even defining the OKRs or doing that work to make sure all of the efforts that are done in the organization are aligning to the OKRs. So yeah. But you as an individual, when you work on projects, you can definitely employ these techniques, while you're working with different projects, and you'll see change when you grow up and maybe manage more teams. Yeah.
Thanks, Shreya. That was really insightful. I think the less number of audience, but then that got
good
more questions. Thanks for the interaction, folks. Absolutely. And a small token. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Yashri. Absolutely.